morning, good afternoon, good evening all, it's Bear here. And I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel, A Box with No Lid. A channel I'm creating to not only just to bring awareness to the day-to-day realities of complex trauma, but I really want to get into some of the understandings to help empower you to heal and improve the quality of your day-to-day lives. Now in this video, I want to explore something that's a little difficult to explain because there's such a vast amount of information around it. And this is, of course, the vagus nerve and the part that it plays in not only just our day-to-day lives, but in how we respond to trauma. Now, the vagus nerve basically is one of the most essential bridges we have. It's a pathway. It links, it's a key component of our parasympathetic nervous system. It links all of our major organs required for us being alive. It also has a sensory component. It bridges between thought and potential and how we assess our environment and our threat responses. It engages immune responses. It basically connects the gut and brain. It basically is the central pathway for the majority of all the key functions that we have within our physiology and our neurophysiology. And having an understanding of it, I find, is really important because it helps to motivate the little things that we need to do constantly, every day, day in, day out, to support our healing. Yes, the drudgery stuff that when either a therapist has given us or we've read some stuff or we've seen an idea or suggestion online, but we need to do it every day and maintain doing it day in, day out for it to be of benefit. Understanding how the vagus works within us is part of that motivation, because when we have that understanding, well, I need to do this if I want to get better. And this is why I'm doing this. If you don't see a point of doing something, then we very quickly lose interest. And a human being, we do that quite quickly, 2 to 3 days, and we've lost interest. But if we know, well, this is what I'm doing and this is why, it helps us to maintain and stick with it, which is basically the point of this video. Now, the vagus, when you look at it from an old world perspective, from indigenous and ancient cultures, the vagus was seen as a bridge between spirit and the physical world, and our physical world. And within the ceremonial components and the healing components, sound and vibration, and there's all these different things that were used that engaged the vagus to participate in altering the severity of its responses to enabling healing and to improve the health, well-being, and the quality of life. When you look at it from a modern world perspective, the vagus is not only sending our autonomic system, where heart rate, breathing, digestion, liver, all the stuff that happens that keeps us alive that we don't think about. Our immune response and all this is conveyed by the vagus and triggered by the vagus. But it also has the sensory component of assessing our environment, assessing what is pleasurable and assessing what is threat. And it also has access to our epigenetics component, the instructions that we've inherited to make that assessment. So there's this 3 kind of area component. I'll try to put up a diagram to help you guys understand. There's these 3 main areas between interpretation, the instructions we follow to interpret, and how we respond. That is key to being able to enforce or keep these daily little practices going in the right way to help us heal. And this is why the vagus is so valuable in learning. And I must say that when you will look at it online, there's loads of information to varying degrees of complexity. Polyvagal theory is a term you will more than likely come across. It is well worth exploring, and I find it fascinating and a key component to where the direction that trauma therapy and research is going. But it tends to overwhelm, so we go, no, this is too complex. I can't, it's just too much. I'm not going to do it. But we need to persist. And I'm sorry, this video is going to be a little wordy and a little all over the place, because there's literally all these different parts that I'm trying to bring together into a simple understanding. The understanding that I'm trying to convey is by engaging with our environment, by choosing to engage with our environment in comfortable to pleasurable layers, many, many times throughout our day and night, we are teaching our nervous system, we are teaching through the vagal pathways to broaden how we interpret threat, what is threat and what isn't. We are creating these two camps that need to be negotiated between. When we go through an embedded traumatic responses, when we've lived with trauma for a long time, this camp gets fed with a lot of information and a lot of reasons why this needs to be felt this way. We need to feed the other camp. Because in healing trauma, we titrate between the two to create a better way of actively assessing our environment, our day-to-day present environment, to going, no, I'm not under threat, and we process that threat to memory. And the vagal pathways are all the pathways we have to be able to do this. Whether it's through tactile, whether it's through temperature, whether it's through breathing, exercise, yoga, meditation, sound and vibration, and all these different things, they all engage the vagal pathways. And we need to do it in just the right amounts to be able to be pleasurable, to be able to be nice, and to feel positive, or to feel good about what we're experiencing, to feed the other camp, so that we can counter the severity of our traumatic response camp, our threat level camp, and all the reasons why we can't, shouldn't, and won't. And that, in a nutshell, is what this video is about. Now, there are many ways we can do this. Essentially, every time you engage with the physical world, you're engaging via vagal pathways. But, a cold face cloth to a bucket of, a dish of ice water over the face is one excellent way, when under a lot of stress, to engage the vagal nerve pathways, to stimulate the vagus into assessing now, and to break this feeding cycle into a heightened threat state. Or listening to different types of music, not from the emotional triggering component, but from the vibrational component. Tibetan bowls and all this sort of stuff work through vagal stimulation. The sound vibration, drums are another. That's why a lot of people who have gone through trauma are drawn to that more bassier music, because it does that. And there's another trend that I see a lot, is these noise cancelling headphones and earplugs. Yes, they are needed in a lot of areas, but we cannot wear them all the time, because that isolation from our environment that they create, they feed our trauma response camp rather than the balancing between the two. So when we take them out, we need to do the equivalent amount of engagement in our environment to balance that out. And this is where this video is about. And I'm sorry it's a little wishy-washy, and it really bothers me that this happens. But when you look at it from the two camp perspective, we need to feed the good as much as our trauma feeds the not so good. So engage in your physical environment, engage in the world, and choose to engage in ways that are positive, are nice, and have a sensory input that is positive. Things that you enjoy, or things that counter that threat trigger. Like I know, as I've said in other videos, this choking mechanisms that I have, which is a vagal dysregulation, where I constantly feel like I'm choking, and it's non-stop. I can't swallow. It doesn't go away. It's not minutes. It's days, weeks, and months. I use either a soda water or an ice cold soda water. I use different things that create a stimulation, because one of the vagal connections is the soft part of the back of the palate, to engage and to stop this cycle of perceived response, to add another response that overwhelms it, to get it to reset. Which I do this, it helps to ease the severity of some of the symptoms that come from when triggered or come from my own traumatic responses. And you can find for yourselves your own ways to work with stimulating the vagal pathways in your nervous system, to create that titration between positive and negative, to be able to bring the body out of these heightened negative states. And it is really a key part of healing trauma. It's also a key part of improving the quality of our lives, and a key part of building a foundation to support any of the therapies we choose to engage with to heal. So I know this one's a little wordy, and there's a lot of information out there, and I will do a couple of other videos pretty quickly on expanding on some of the other components of the vagal pathways. But just take a little bit of time, do your own little bits of research here and there, and to the degree that you require, but value these pathways and value your engagement through the vagal pathways in feeding that positive camp. As always, I love your guys' feedback and comments. Please be mindful, please be respectful, and I'll see you all next time. Hope.